Okay, Chavra, thanks for joining our Pituchei Chotam Shir. It is Pashas Miketz, and I'd like to share with you two pieces from Rabbeinu Yaakov. The first one begins with these names that Yosef is given. Vayikra Pare Shem Yosef. Pare calls a name to Yosef HaTzadik. He calls him Tzofnas Paneach, which Sefaria says it means, the words are Egyptian for God speaks and he lives, or creator of life, Tzofnas Paneach. Vayitin leis Osnas, and Parai, after he calls Yosef Tzofnas Paneach, he gives him a wife, Osnas, Bas Potifera, and Yosef goes out to become in charge of the land of Egypt. Gewaldig. So what's up with these names? Says Rabbeinu Yaakov, don't think that this was just Paro's idea. It's got to be that these names came from HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And why is it that Hashem wanted Yosef to be called Tzofnas Paneach? And what's the significance of his wife's name being Osnas? So listen to what Rabbi Yaakov teaches us. The word Tzofnas is the gematria 620, which is the same as the gematria of Kasser. Kasser is a crown. Osnas is 511, and that's the gematria of Malchus, which is a reference. They put these two together. You have something called Kasser Malchus. Now, those of you who are familiar with the seviras that we've learned previously, you know that the first sevira is called Kasser, and the last one is called Malchus. And there's this combination of when we put the two together, and we have Kasser Malchus, the royal crown. And in this shidduch between Yosef being called Tzofnas and Osnas, there's a combination, a connection between Kasser and Malchus. Says Rabbi Yaakov, it was through the Maisa, the act of Yosef being mitkaber when it came to Eishes Potifar, in that great nisayon that he has. He eventually, after being thrown into jail and being brought out, he was actually given a Kasser Malchus. And not only was this Kasser Malchus put on his body, says Rabbi Yaakov, just like he was crowned, his neshama was also crowned with her Kasser Malchus. And says Rabbi Yaakov, that is the Remez in Osnas being called Malchuse, is that she obviously must have been destined for Yosef to be a woman, a very righteous woman, who was very fitting for this great tzaddik. So Yosef is zeicha to being a tzofnas, to getting the Kasser, and then being married to Malchus. In Kabbalistic, that's great significance. And we have to appreciate that as well, what we're able to achieve through our action and even through our inaction, as Yosef did. Number one. Number two. Vayerdu ache Yosef Asara. Yosef's brothers, who were 10, came down to Egypt, Lishbar Bar Mitzrayim, to get rations in Egypt. Lishbar Bar Mitzrayim. So Rabbi Yaakov was bothered by the extra word Asara and Mitzrayim, but he teaches us something very, very powerful, and that is something that he quotes in a Rizal that talks about the Asara Harugei Malchus. There were 10 martyrs, Rabbi Akiva being amongst them, Rabbi Yishmael Kohen Gadol. We read about them on Tisha B'Av. We read about them on Yom Kippur. Asara Harugei Malchus. Now Rizal says that these Asara Harugei Malchus were actually, he says, they were the neshamas of the 10 shvatim that sold Yosef. And he says that the Misa of the Harugei Malchus made such a roshim. It had a great effect in the upper worlds that he says, Asher kamoy lo niyasa v'chamoy lo seisef. There was no such activity in this world that caused such a rash, it was never something like that in the upper worlds and in the lower worlds. Says the Arizal, from this act of Asar Harugei Malchus, to the extent that their death caused a Haluni Tzeitzes HaKadesha, brought up sparks from the klipas that were in the world of Asiya, that is our world. It's the effect of Asar Harugei Malchus. Says Rabbi Yaakov, now this idea must be merumez, must be hinted to in the Torah, and says Rabbi Yaakov, I'll show you where. He says it's from our pasuk. The word asara in our pasuk is extra. It said that the brothers went down. What if told me the 10 brothers went down? It's a remez to the Asar Harugei Malchus. And what did they do? What did they do when they came down? They came lishbar bar to bring stuff up, to get rations, to bring up the nitzosos hakadoshos that fell in Mitzrayim. Mitzrayim is a gematria of 385, the same as the Olam Asiya. That's what they went down to do. Vayerdu achei Yosef Asara, a remez to the Asar Harugei Malchus, that it was through their death that caused Lishbar Bar to bring up much from Mitzrayim. Baruch Hashem, we don't have to. We're not in that position now, but we have to appreciate that every act we do of Mesiras Nefesh, of pushing ourselves, taking something out of Mitzrayim, brings wonderful nachas ruach to the Rebbeinu Shalom. Have a wonderful lichtige Shabbos.